Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bell Ringers podcast. Colin Daly alongside Benjamin Goldstein. And folks, the time has come. Pitchers and catchers are in Clearwater. They're in Florida. They're even in Arizona right now. The Phillies guys, they are down in Clearwater getting in all of their work. And I don't know about you, but it has been a long time coming for this, and I'm glad that time has finally arrived. What do you think about this?
I love it. Spring training is it's a good time of the year, especially when it first gets underway. You see the guys in the jerseys, and it's fun. You hear the cleats clicking on the um on the uh on the pavement, and it's just you saw a picture of Charlie Manuel today. He looks good, and it's good to be back to Phillies baseball. It's been a long off season, kind of a boring off season after having a bad taste in your mouth from the NLCS, but it's good to be back, Colin. It's good to be back.
I agree. So we have a couple things we want to talk about today. Where should we start?
Let's start with what came out most recently with Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, so give us the recap on that first.
So the Phillies and Zach Wheeler have begun contract extensions. Reporters in Clearwater talked to Wheeler yesterday, and Wheeler said, if I can find the tweet, Wheeler said that the Phillies and he have started negotiations on a potential contract extension. Wheeler's contract is up after this season. It's early in the process. Wheeler said, he said hopefully it'll happen before spring training is over. He also said that he loves it here and that they are happy.
Right.
It's kind of like an Aaron Nola situation. Wheeler, it sounds like he wants $40 million a year. Does he deserve it? Probably. And I think I hope this gets done before the season starts, so we don't have to worry about it during the season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, have you seen the video version of any of his interviews? Because in all the interviews that he's done in the last couple of weeks, he's made it very clear he wants to stay in Philadelphia. He's happy where he is. He's happy with the Phillies, and I think that's the most promising thing we've seen from these conversations so far. I mean, in that most recent one, and I did see the video, he made it very apparent that Philadelphia is where he wanted to be, and that is a huge thing when you're looking at contract extensions, especially for a guy who could really go anywhere. And probably 20 of the 30 teams would give him as much money as he asked for, with how good he's been over the past 4 years. So, in my
Especially
eyes, that's a huge thing.
in the postseason as well. He has been the Phillies' best pitcher in these last two postseasons. He's just so valuable, and if the Phillies just cannot let anything happen to Zach Wheeler for the rest of his career, and hopefully sign him up, $40 million a year. I think he deserves it. You can look at a 5-year. I don't know the exact money, $40 million times 5, but whatever that is, I think that would be a good deal for them, and just whatever works for both sides. I mean, if I'm the Phillies, I'm kind of giving Zach Wheeler what he wants. I know it's easier said than done, but he deserves it. And if they could lock up Wheeler and Nola for the rest of their careers in the same offseason, that's a pretty good offseason.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, also, the most recent reports coming out, John Heyman, who I believe is from MLB Network,
New York
was
Times.
mentioning that he believes that the Phillies are potentially in store for making another big move. And I believe the quote was that he wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies had one more big move in them this offseason, which I know, can we call it the offseason anymore? I don't know.
I mean, when players can still be signed.
I think it's the
I
offseason.
guess it's the off. I mean, I
Preseason is
think
really what it is. It's a
yeah.
preseason.
I mean, I would say it's the off season until spring training games start, and then it's preseason.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So like late
Which,
February.
folks, is not too far away. I believe we are within a week of exhibition games starting, which is something to keep an eye out for,
That is
as
crazy.
those come
That
closer.
is
It is
absolutely crazy.
absolutely insane. I got a question for you.
I might have an answer.
So last season, there was the hype about Alec Boehm coming into the season. They said that he gained all this muscle, he gained some weight. He's going to be a power hitter. And while Boehm put up great numbers this year, wasn't really the outcome that a lot of fans were expecting in terms of his power numbers. Now the same thing this year is happening with Johan Rojas. Obviously, their struggles and their experience level are on very different stages. What do you
Yes.
expect out of Johan Rojas this year? And what is just your entire opinion on where the Phillies outfield depth is at right now?
I like the outfield depth as it is. People are forgetting Christian Pache is a Philly. I think Pache is I don't love Christian Pache, but he has been fine for the Phillies, and I'm good with him playing in the outfield if he needs to. That said, moving back to Johan Rojas, uh, if Johan Rojas can hit the ball, that would be the exact thing I'd want him to do. Last season, the guy couldn't hit to save his life, except for
Right.
that one at bat in the 10th inning against the Pirates to send the Phillies to the playoffs and that walk off. Other than that, Johan Rojas was virtually unable to hit the baseball, especially in the postseason. Which I mean, it was his first postseason, so the
Right.
guy's was 22. I think it was his first. He didn't play half the season last year. I think the expectations need to be lowered at least for the first month or so from Rojas until he has officially played half of a season. And then
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
think if Johan Rojas figures out how to hit a baseball, he doesn't need to hit home runs. He's just got to drive the ball, get on base with his
I'm not
speed.
gonna hit home runs.
No, but his muscles that he posted on Instagram, the guy looks like he can hit a ball 450 feet, but he's Johan Rojas. But if he can hit a ball that brings Schwarber and Turner up behind him in this dominant Phillies lineup, I mean, he's basically a leadoff hitter at this point, Rojas. I, I, I think Rojas is going to be fine hitting. Defense, we know what we're going to get. Great defense. But we'll see. We'll see what we get from
Yeah.
the hitting. I think it'll be better than what we got last year.
And well, in the regular season, Rojas was a great hitter. Did he finish the season hitting over 300? I can't remember.
I can tell you right now.
Something makes me think that he finished just under 300.
Rojas last season, 302.
Wow.
The guy just could not hit the baseball in the
In the
postseason.
postseason. Yeah, I mean it was like a switch just completely flipped with him. And I understand that when you get into postseason baseball, the caliber of pitchers that you're facing is going to increase significantly. But that said, I think he faced some very good pitchers and had success against those same pitchers during the regular season. The difference is that he did not look prepared in the postseason. And I'm sure he was prepared, but I think he was nervous. He was up there. He swung at pitches that he wouldn't usually swing at. He looked like he didn't have one consistent approach in similar situations. It seemed like he was outmatched every single time he got to the box. And I think that's something we can only get with experience, right? If there was some sort of issue where he couldn't make contact or he had this crazy mechanical issue, didn't display enough athleticism, like those are things that I think are incurable. But with a guy like Rojas, I think he only has room to improve. So I really do think people are overreacting about the outfield situation. I'm not totally sure how I feel about Christian Pache. He had some big moments for the Phillies last year, especially that game against, I believe it was AJ Puck in the Miami Marlins. But I don't know to what extent we can count on Pache to be a huge asset for the Phillies this year. I think that might have been a bit of a one-hit wonder. I do remember correctly when he came back off the injured list, he had that screw removed from his elbow, and I don't think he was as productive at the plate when he came back. So
Well, I mean, that is what
again,
the offseason is for. So,
exactly, and we'll only figure that out with time.
Johan Rojas in the postseason last year, guess his OPS.
Has to be under 300.
Give me a number.
221.
276.
Wow.
You want to hear his batting average?
Is it above or under 100?
.093.
Yikes.
On base percentage of 114. He struck out 15 times in 45 plate appearances, and he had 4 hits. He was 4 for 45 in the postseason.
That's rough.
And he did have a triple, a double and a triple. So 4 of his hits were doubles, half of his hits were extra base hits.
I couldn't even remember one of them, to tell you the
And
truth.
he did not have a single RBI, and he had 1 walk. And he 0 stolen bases, which is concerning. But
We've only got on base how many times?
5.
Well, yeah, that kind of explains it there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is definitely going to be interesting to see how that progresses.
You want
What
to
are
talk
you
about
looking
Jordan
for?
Montgomery?
Well, before we get there, what are you looking for
Okay.
to spring training? What are the things that you have your eye on?
John Kruk's commentary being back.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Is he broadcasting any of the spring training games? I feel like he doesn't usually do those.
He'll probably do a few. I mean, he lives in Florida in the off season.
That's
so
true. That's true.
I'm sure he'll be there. We'll see to what extent. It's always good to see Charlie Manuel in a dugout. He was
That
back
was
today,
awesome.
which is incredible. That photo of him, he looks really good after his medical emergency he had in September or October of last year. I don't remember the exact date, but he looks good. He's up and moving, so that'll be good. Hopefully, he throws out the first pitch for opening day. That'd be awesome. And you can go to opening day and more Phillies games and spring training games and anything, concerts, live shows, any sport with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a ticket buying app that makes buying tickets so easy. They have sponsored all 47 of these podcasts. You can go to SeatGeek and use code Phillies Sports Report to save $20 off your first purchase. Hold that S. Again, it's on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If not, it's Phillies Sports Report, PhillysSportsReport. Hold that
Hold the
S.
S.
Save
Shove it in the
$20 off
drawer
your
and
first
lock the
SeatGeek
drawer.
purchase. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode and podcast.
Indeed.
As always.
Well, Ben, you're going to have to help us out with the agenda today because I have it on my phone and I have the camera on my phone. So this is all on you. You're leading the episode.
Well, we've gone through the Wheeler contract, talked about pitchers and catchers. We talked about the outfield depth. Let's talk about Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell and Emmanuel Clase and some guys that the Phillies might sign, Colin. I mean, I know you have all these sources and everybody's telling you everything.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I have all the background.
Are the Phillies going to sign anybody?
No. Roster's set.
Darn. So the Phillies have been rumored to be around with Jordan Montgomery, left-hander from Texas, Blake Snell, the left-hander from San Diego, Cody Bellinger, the outfielder from Chicago, and Emmanuel Clase, the closer from Cleveland. Howard Eskin, I believe, reported on Clase. I don't remember who was Snell. And I think it was, I don't remember who was, I think it was John Heyman was Montgomery and Bellinger. Don't quote me on it. But it was Bob Nightingale was on Bellinger and Montgomery. So we'll see if any of that really happens. But it sounds like the most possible is Jordan Montgomery on a 1 to 3 year deal, is what it's sounding like, which I would love.
So how would a rotation look in that scenario?
I would do Nola. Nola's going to start opening day no matter what. It's going to be Nola, Wheeler, Montgomery, Ranger, Taiwan Walker. If they want to do a 6-man rotation, they can do Spencer Turnbull or Christian Sanchez or Christopher Sanchez.
Better be Christopher Sanchez.
I think it will.
If that man isn't
Spencer
in the
Turnbull.
rotation,
You're not a fan of Spencer Turnbull, the bull? Put the horns up. You mess with the bull, you get the
well,
horns,
I'd
Tyler.
almost rather see. Yeah, I'd love to see Turnbull in there, but it happening without an injury.
Yeah,
I mean, I
Phillies
think
just
Turnbull is a great signing.
yeah.
Signing for the Phillies. It makes a ton of sense. Highly touted prospect, a guy that you can probably work with at some point, whether that be in the minor leagues or major leagues, to really hone in his mechanics. A great guy for Caleb Cotham to work with and develop, but it's like one of those things. I think you mentioned this on Twitter. It's extremely, extremely low risk and potentially a high reward.
Yeah, I mean Turnbull, I can look up his stats right now from before he had Tommy John surgery. He had Tommy John surgery in 2022. He didn't come back very good this year, but he is still before then he was good. So let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here we go. Turnbull, he's 31, career ERA of 4.55, but he came back from Tommy John. He has 7.26 ERA, but before that, in 2021, he had a sub-3 ERA. I mean, there's only 9 starts, but he was pretty good in 2020 and 21 before that arm surgery. So if the Phillies can if the Phillies can get him to return to that level, he's going to be like, he could be solid in this Phillies rotation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, he's like I said, he is a guy where you do not know what you're going to get out of him. And sometimes there's the best signings, right? Like I know people have been mentioning, who's going to be the 2022 Andrew Bellotti, who's going to be the 2023 Jeff Hoffman. I think that if Turnbull gets an opportunity, he could be one of those guys. I think there are a lot of people who could be one of those guys. I think it could be a Griffin McGarry. I think it could be even David Buchanan, who the Phillies picked up just a couple of days ago. I mean, at similar, he's a little older, but not a little, a lot older, but similar situation is Turnbull. He was once a big prospect who people thought was going to pan out to be an all-star caliber player. So it's going to be. Everyone has been so fixated on the outfield during the offseason and talking about Bellinger. I'm fascinated by this pitching staff. I think there are so many options that the front office has and Rob Thompson has to turn to right now. They could really shape this in a unique way. Maybe even throwing one of those guys in the bullpen, especially Buchanan, and seeing if they can spark fire somewhere. So I'm super curious to see how Sam Fuld, Dave Dombrowski, what's the other guys do? What the other dudes? Ned Rice. See how they're going to
who is
to shape the team.
Who was that last
Ned
guy?
Rice. He's
Who
he's Sam Fuld's number 2 guy.
Okay, well, Sam Fuld doesn't do anything as it is, so.
Oh, I'm sure he does. Dave Dombrowski. This is a baseball pet peeve I have. Then is that people just associate a single name with the team, and most of these guys don't even have the same titles. Like Matt Klentak is not equivalent to David Dombrowski. Matt Klentak was just the guy in the front office that everyone decided to criticize.
Well, he was the general manager.
Dave Dombrowski's not the general manager.
It depends on who's making the moves. Klentak had control of the moves as the general manager. They had that other goofball as the president who he was in on the moves, but it was Klentak who ended up having the final say. For the Phillies now, it's Dave Dombrowski who's taking president. He is overall baseball operations guy. He is the guy making the deals. That's Dombrowski. It used to be Klentak. They fired Klentak, and now it's Dombrowski. And then you have Sam Fuld, who's obviously in there because he's the general manager. John Middleton, of course, the owner. He, of course, has the final say. But it's Dave Dombrowski currently making the moves, and it was Matt Klentak. Some, like the Flyers, they have a general manager and a president, but the president doesn't make all the moves. It's more the general manager who's more on hands. The Eagles, they don't even, I don't even know who they have a president, but their general manager, Howie Roseman, does everything. Sixers
Yeah.
president does everything. Their general manager used to do everything, but he was so bad at it, they hired a president. So that's kind of what happened. That's kind of Daryl Morey and Sam Folds thing. Dombrowski's head of baseball operations. Sam Fold is just kind of his puppet that's there with him.
Well, that's not true because they do split up the work. I read some
Oh,
stuff a
I'm
couple
sure,
weeks
but
ago.
I just
I
like to
know they
make fun
said
of Sam Fold because he's so relevant.
well, yeah. Because I know they said Ned Rice was a big factor in the signing of somebody. I can't remember who it was. Might have been. It was
It's
one of
probably
the guys
Colby
from 2
Allard.
years ago, either
Oh.
Castellanos or Schwarber, one of the two. I want to say I think he was the Schwarber guy, but because he was
That's why
the
I like him.
interim GM at one point, Ned Rice. So, anywho, we got distracted. Give us your
What
spring
else is
training
there?
predictions. Before we wrap this up, I want 3 guys who you think are going to be breakout stars this year.
3 guys.
I'm going to write mine down right now so I don't forget them.
Put me on the spot here.
I know I didn't even run this by you.
I think Johan Rojas looks better. I'm not going to say he's a breakout, but I think he looks better. I think Alec Boehm's going to look good as well. And my third, probably a pitcher. Colby Allard. Give me some Colby Allard. I think that's also another low-risk signing. It's another Caleb Cotham project that I am kind of not a huge fan of, but I don't hate it. So give me that. Give me Colby Allard. Breakout.
Do you think Kobe Allard has a spot to make the roster?
No.
Even if it's in the bullpen? No. So he's just going to do all that awesome.
I think bullpen possibly. I think bullpen possibly. I think it's going to be a fight for that, like a couple bullpen spots between Allard and what's his face, Turnbull, and that old Beckington. And there's probably another guy to throw in there as well. But I mean, I think no matter what happens, his team is already set, and I think it was set on after Game 7 of the NLCS. I mean, this is the team. I remember saying it on that podcast. Nothing's going to change. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong about that, but that's what I think.
Okay. I got one for you.
Oh, boy. I mean, I don't know if I should really trust you because you did say that Peter Borges was one of the most lovable Phillies in last episode, which I actually posted on all of our sites, and you got some traction. You did get some traction. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I can tell you my list here is a little bit more normal.
Okay.
I can assure you that. All right, number 1, I think this is a pretty typical one that you're going to hear from a ton of people, and that's Mick Abel. I think if you asked, 100 Phillies fans this question, I think a lot of them are going to tell you Mick Abel. I mean, he's one of their biggest pitching prospects right now. He's young, he's big, and he's a guy who can overpower with the fastball. He's got a good curve, good slider. He has all the tools, and at this point, it's just whether or not he can utilize those tools in a game situation. And if he's able to do that and effectively match major league hitters, he's going to ride right into major league success. My second guy, who I think that this is going to be a little controversial. That's okay. That's what I am, controversial.
Peter Borges.
A guy that no one liked last year, and I hated this guy more than anybody, but I could not deny that he has talent, and that's Junior Marte.
I forgot about Junior Marte.
He throws gas. He's big, he's strong, and he has really good stuff. If he can command it and not throw his breaking balls like right down the middle, he could be a serious weapon out of the Phillies bullpen. I think he's a few mechanical adjustments away from being a very viable option in a big league bullpen. So I think that if he's treated right in training camp, Junior Marte, breakout star.
I think it would be great. I think he would have been better if he wasn't used as heavily as he was last season.
He had no role.
Rob Thompson went to him so many times, so many unnecessary appearances from Marte, and a lot of them were very bad. But I think if he can get a role in this bullpen and have a consistent schedule, and I think he could be okay. I'm not going to say
Right.
good or great, but I think it could be good enough to have a role. This bullpen's pretty packed right now, so he could be one of those guys fighting for one of those spots too. So we'll see what really happens when it comes down
and
to
here's how I see what happened for Marte last year. I think he got a little screwed over by management. He came up, he was the mop-up guy, right? That was his role. He was the mop-up guy. He did well in that role in the beginning. He was a good. Did I get a thumbs up?
Yeah, I don't know what just happened.
Fun.
I don't know what that was.
Fun.
If you're watching on the YouTube, you just got a thumbs up. I don't know what just happened. If you're not, then you just missed that. You should subscribe to the YouTube channel. Free plug.
You should do that. Anyhow, he last year Junior Marte comes up. He's the mop-up man, right? And he did well in that role. Rob Thompson and the rest of his team recognized that, and they started putting him in some higher leverage situations. And when they did that, they realized, hey, I guess Marte is still going to have to be our mop-up man. He was just used so frequently, like you mentioned. I think, and that when you have that sudden change of routine, and there's no other move to reciprocate or complement that, then I think it really messes with a pitcher's ability. And I think Junior Marte fell victim of that in 2023. And I think that if he's put in a better position this year, he could be a very, very scary part of the Phil's pen. And you're not going to like the last one, but it's just going to happen. It has to, because it's the Phillies way. Scott Kingery.
Hey, the yearly Scott Kingery.
He's due for one of his I'm back. He's due for one. He didn't get called up at all last year.
Yeah, I think so.
He got called up and played an inning the year prior. He's due.
He's
due
nationally.
For his yearly.
Kingery has a ring. He has a national championship ring.
Are you giving me these thumbs up?
I don't know what's going on. I guess what we're using, our system likes your takes. But yeah, I could see Kingery doing that thing. I don't think he'll make the roster, but I
don't either.
The Phillies were saying they want another utility guy that can play everywhere. That can come in whenever.
He's your guy.
What are your thoughts on a Matt Vierling reunion?
I would love it.
I met Matt Vierling.
I've met Matt Vierling as well.
He's a cool guy.
Training. He is a very cool guy. He signed my hat, and then he hit a triple. So I'll always like Matt Vierling for that.
Yeah, I mean he signed one of baseball, and then he gave me some popcorners. So
what did he give you?
Popcorners. You know what popcorners are?
Like the food?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
They're like the fake popcorn you buy at the grocery store, right?
It's the chip popcorn.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's weird.
I was like, nice snack. You got some popcorn. He's like, yeah, you want some? He was like, sure. And then he gave me some boxes to give to somebody. So, Matt Vierling getting me involved. But yeah, cool guy.
Very cool guy.
Very cool. Anyway, we have anything else to talk about? Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. I'm just glad baseball's back.
Baseball
is
episode 47. Thank you to SeatGeek. Subscribe, rate us, follow me, follow Colin, follow Bellringers, follow Philly Sports Reports everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads. Bellringers is on Twitter, X. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to listen to podcast apps, we're there. If you're on podcast apps, listen on YouTube. Thank you for watching and listening. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.